If you're in B2B SaaS marketing, you're probably under a lot of pressure to drive growth. But without the right data, it's nearly impossible to know where to actually focus to make it happen. I've worked with dozens of B2B SaaS companies at Passetto, many of them PE-backed, and the same problem shows up every time. Teams are measuring what's easy to count, things like MQLs, marketing source pipeline from last touch, customer acquisition cost. And because those numbers are easy to pull, they get all of the attention. When they're up, marketing gets the credit. When they're down, marketing gets the blame, even when those numbers don't tell the real story. Meanwhile, the work that actually brings in revenue barely gets measured at all. So it stays underfunded, underreported, and invisible to leadership. The result? Well, most companies are doing the exact opposite of what the data says works because they are optimizing for the wrong numbers instead of what actually creates the necessary conditions for pipeline and revenue to be created in the first place. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 strategies the teams that are actually growing are using and why they look so different from what the most traditional marketing playbooks tell you to do. And these aren't expensive or complicated either. In fact, they're some of the most straightforward, common sense things you can do. They just require measuring the right things first. All right, let's get into it. All right, strategy number 1, fix your win rate before you add more pipeline. Hear me out. If you're a marketing leader, your first instinct might be to say that win rate is a sales metric, but it's actually one of the best indicators of marketing effectiveness that you have. When revenue isn't growing fast enough, the default move is to go get more leads and go get more pipeline. But if you're only closing a fraction of what you already have, adding more deals on top barely changes anything. You're just adding water to a leaky bucket. Most of the companies we work with are closing somewhere between 25 to 50% of deals. But what matters more than the number itself is whether it's consistent across every source, segment, and motion. A healthy win rate varies, but if yours is below 20 to 25% and you're not sure why, that's usually the first place to go look and inspect. And if your team is focused on generating more leads before you've answered that question, you're not creating more value. You're just creating more activity. The most efficient path to revenue growth is almost always starting with getting more out of what you already have. Here's the math that many CMOs aren't doing. Doubling your pipeline when your win rate is low barely moves the revenue needle. But raising your win rate even by a few points, that can be a massive difference, and it often costs less because you're getting more out of the deals you already paid to create. But here's the bigger problem. Companies typically look at win rate as a single blended number, and that's where the real insight gets buried. Because within that average win rate, completely different stories are playing out across different segments or geographies or deal sources or sales motion. So it's hidden within that aggregate view. We worked with a $200 million company where one of their highest volume pipeline sources, free product trials, had not only the lowest average deal size out of everything they were creating, but a win rate of just 7%. Meanwhile, the marketing team was pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into paid search to drive those free trial signups because further up the funnel, well, they looked like they converted well. The conversion from lead to pipeline, yeah, it may have looked great, but the revenue outcome was terrible and nobody had connected the dots between the two things. And that's the trap. And it's exactly what happens when you measure what's easy to count instead of what actually closes. Now, the single biggest lever on win rate, well, whether marketing stays involved in the deal after the opportunity is created. With one company we work with at Passetto, deals where marketing stayed involved closed at 55% compared to 29% of the ones where marketing didn't. That's just one example. It's not an average, but it lines up with what we consistently see across the board. So keeping marketing in the deal is one of the most direct ways to raise your win rate. And that means you need to start measuring marketing on win rate, not just lead generation. Here's where you can start. So break out your win rate by where your deals are coming from and what type of buyer they are. Find out where the pipeline is actually dying, and then go look at whether the deals where marketing stayed involved are the ones you end up winning. And when it comes to how you measure your marketing team, shift the focus to the deals they help close and how fast, not just the volume of leads or pipeline they brought in the first place. Most companies still don't measure marketing this way. Just making this one change already puts you ahead of them. All right, strategy number 2, keep marketing in the deal after the handoff. So if the best performing companies are using marketing to improve win rates to generate more revenue, the obvious question is, how do you actually make that happen? Because on most teams, marketing basically stops the moment a lead enters the sales cycle and becomes a deal. In the companies that we've audited, Marketing engagement during an active deal cycle is sometimes completely negligible on the average opportunity. And these aren't quick deals either. They can run anywhere from 40 days to well over a year. That's a very long window where marketing has completely gone quiet on a buyer who hasn't said yes yet. The number you're actually aiming for is somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 meaningful touch points across the deal. Not spray and pray emails, targeted and relevant content, time to where the buyer is in their buying journey. Here's what that looks like in practice. The simplest place to start is building campaigns that align to your deal cycles with content or, events that your sales team can deploy at the right moment. From there, you want to think beyond your main point of contact because they're rarely the one making the decision. There's usually the person who wants the product, the person who controls the budget, the person who has to sign off technically, and the people who will actually use it too. So instead of a generic deck to the whole account, you're creating content aimed at each of those individual people and their pain points and their questions. Beyond content, the deals that close tend to have buyers who stay engaged throughout the active sales cycle. So one of the highest value things you can do is give people already in the deal something genuinely worth showing up for, like an invite to an invite-only roundtable, a hands-on workshop, a direct conversation with one of your existing customers. These buyers are already halfway there. You're just staying close while they finish making the decision. Now, this is not marketing hijacking the deal. It's giving sales a reason for the buyer to stay connected between meetings. And for the deals that go quiet, including demos or meetings that people don't show up to, re-engagement campaigns do more than teams realize. Most of those deals aren't dead. They have just lost momentum. A well-timed nudge restarts more conversations than you'd expect. The good news here is that you don't need a big, complex team to run any of this. A few years ago, this kind of personalized, stage-by-stage marketing required real headcount. Now, with the right tools and a solid content library, one person could run the whole motion. It's no longer a competitive advantage that only the biggest budgets can access. Now, real quick, if you want to see exactly how involved marketing is in your active deals right now, or how your win rates differ based on where your leads are coming from, click the first link below to book a strategy call with us. We connect your marketing, sales, and CRM data into one unified view so you can finally see how your pipeline is actually being created. And in a 2-week sprint, we'll show you what's working and what's just burning budget. All right, back to the video. Strategy number 3, stop hiring more SDRs. So the first 2 strategies we're talking about winning more of the deals that you already have. The next 2 are about where new pipeline comes from in the first place. And this one is going to feel counterintuitive because it goes against what almost every team does when pipeline is down. When results from your outbound motion slow down, the instinct is always to hire more SDR headcount or bet that adding AI into the process will fix it. But neither of those things addresses the actual underlying problem. They just scale up something that already isn't working. Here's what the data actually shows. So the average SDR or BDR converts roughly 1% of the contacts they reach out to into real pipeline. Let that sink in, 1%. That means for every 100 people they call, only one of them turns into an opportunity. And then layer on a 25% win rate on top of that. And you can see just how much effort it actually takes to close a single deal through outbound. The best teams might get that conversion rate to 3%. Anything above that is genuinely rare. And most teams have no idea that their numbers are this low until somebody shows them. So the issue isn't how many calls your reps can make. It's that nobody can see why the outreach is failing, so nobody knows what to fix. Hiring 5 more reps and dropping them into the same process gets you the same low conversion rate at a much higher cost. Here's the other thing that our data shows. SDR's best results don't come from cold outreach. They come from accounts that marketing already touched first. The accounts yours called after marketing had already engaged them won at meaningfully higher rates than truly cold ones, which means a significant portion of SDR's performance is borrowed from marketing basically having gone first. The colder the account, the worse the numbers get. What we're seeing from PE-backed teams that have had to make these changes is that they pause on headcount and they put that budget into visibility first, getting proper tracking in place and identifying which accounts are actually showing buying signals. Once they can see that, they tier their outreach by intent, they use AI for the research and prioritization work, and they measure reps on pipeline created rather than activity volume. The teams that move now will be well ahead before everybody else catches up. One of the most common pushbacks I hear is, but our SDR cost per customer is comparable to marketing when you look at it fully loaded. Yes, that math can hold up, but even if the yield is comparable today, there's something called a durability problem. SDRs work by mining identifiable, in-market accounts. And when that list starts to thin, outbound is the first motion to feel it. The teams investing in marketing now before that list runs dry are the ones who won't be scrambling when it does. Okay, strategy number 4, build demand before they buy. Even the best outreach only works if there are buyers worth reaching in the first place. And that comes down to what most companies get wrong about their ads budget. So based on what we see across the companies that we work with, the majority of paid budget goes towards trying to reach people who are already close to buying through demand capture channels, things like search ads, retargeting, lead gen, with only a small share going towards building brand awareness earlier in the journey. The problem is that only works for buyers who are already interested, and there are only so many of those at any given time. The buyers who convert best are the ones who come to you already warm, who reach out on their own and who ask to talk to sales on their own, not the ones you call because they downloaded a gated content asset or because you scanned their badge at a conference. In our data, these buyers convert dramatically better than anybody a rep had to cold call. But here's what most teams miss. Those buyers didn't just appear. They'd been building trust in you for months and sometimes over a year before they ever raised their hand. The ad that reached them at the end, they didn't create them. It just showed up at the right moment. So yes, that trust gets built in places that are genuinely hard to track. An offline conversation, a recommendation from a peer, a podcast, a question somebody typed into an LLM. This is what people are now calling the dark funnel. And even the companies that built the old tracking tools are moving away from trying to capture it because you can't. It's almost impossible. So instead of trying to track the untrackable, you watch the early signals that interest is building. How many people are searching for your brand by name? How many are typing in your URL directly into their browser? What your share of search looks like relative to competitors. Now, none of these things replace revenue or pipeline, but they show up 6 to 12 months before any of that does, which makes them some of the most valuable leading indicators you have. So once you accept that demand gets built in places you can't fully measure, the move is to put more budget into exactly those places. Podcasts, executive presence on LinkedIn, customer stories, community. For one company we work with, 63% of their highest quality inbound came through organic search, and it kept compounding without paying for every click. This is only becoming more important. Buyers are doing more research on their own before they ever talk to you, searching for your founder, listening to your content, asking their network. So by the time they show up, they have already decided they trust you. The companies that consistently show up in those places are the ones attracting buyers who are already sold before they ever talk to sales. And this doesn't have to be complicated. Your board wants simple data they can trust. And there are straightforward ways to get at this data. And it's meaningful enough to buy you the time to do the things that actually build the business long term. And finally, this is all common sense. None of these strategies are complicated. They're actually some of the most straightforward things you can do. The hard part isn't understanding them. It's doing them when they go against how the industry has operated for decades. Measuring what's easy to count, chasing more leads, hiring more reps, that's the default. And it takes real conviction to move away from it. But here's what the data keeps showing us. Demand that marketing creates, the kind that builds trust over months before a buyer ever raises their hand, that converts 3 to 10 times better than anything else once it arrives. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between emotion that compounds and one that just costs more over time. The catch and why many companies fail is that this work takes time to show up in the numbers your board is used to seeing. So the job isn't just to do the right things, it's also to bring your leadership along with the right metrics while you do them. Time for first touch to opportunity created, branded search volume, direct traffic volume, share of voice, the stories that your buyers tell you in that "how did you hear about us?" These are early proof that something real is being built long before it shows up in pipeline and revenue. Watch those numbers change over time. They will. And when they do, you'll have the data to defend exactly what you've been doing all along. So now you have 4 strategies that the best performing teams are using to grow revenue without just spending more to get there. The question is where to start. And that answer is different for every business because it lives in your own data. If you want us to go find that answer for you, click the first link in the description to book a free strategy call with us. We'll connect your marketing, sales, and CRM data. And in 2 weeks, our sprint will show you exactly where your revenue is coming from, what's working, what isn't, and which of those changes will have the biggest impact. And it's all backed by your own numbers. So again, you can book that call using the first link in the description. And if you want to take everything from today and build a killer go-to-market strategy, then check out this video next.